Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your patience. As usual, there's always some technical difficulties as much as we try to test these things before we start. But thank you again for joining us here as we discuss the recent weather updates in Western Caribbean Sea. Joining us today, we have Mr. Ronald Gordon, a chief meteorologist, Captain Daniel Mendez, National Emergency Coordinator, and Ms. Tenille Hendy, our principal hydrologist. Like we did in the past for the other press briefings, we will have these persons present on the status and then welcome you guys to ask your questions. I will ask Mr. Gordon to start, followed by Mr. Mendez and then Ms. Tenille. 1 second as I share a screen for Mr. Gordon, and then we will proceed. Okay. Mr. Gordon, can I ask you to proceed while we pull this up?
Yes, Miss Zetina. Good afternoon, members of the media. Good afternoon, Belize. We have been closely monitoring the potential for development over the Southwestern Caribbean Sea from the early parts of this week and throughout to this morning. The system has become better organized and currently has a high chance of becoming a tropical depression or a tropical storm before reaching Belize or the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico tomorrow morning. Currently, the chances are 70% of it becoming a tropical storm or depression. Regardless of whether the system becomes a tropical storm or depression, the main threat from the system for the country of Belize is going to be heavy rainfall. And that activity has already started, but we are seeing outer bands of showers and thunderstorms moving across the country from this system. And those are expected to continue throughout the evening and tonight and intensify into tomorrow morning. Rainfall estimates at the moment are for about 4 to 8 inches at the higher end. And based on the current trajectory, the highest amounts of rainfall will be in the extreme north of the country. Indications are that the center of the system will move somewhere north of Belize City and possibly make landfall over northern Belize or over even the northern or the across the border in Mexico. In terms of winds, at the worst case scenario of a low-end tropical storm, we can expect winds of somewhere between 40 and 50 miles per hour, maximum sustained. And those will occur mostly to the north of where the system makes landfall. The potential for storm surge will be minimal. With a tropical storm, we can expect maybe 1-2 feet maximum of storm surge. Again, in north of where the system makes landfall. One important threat or hazard is, of course, rough sea conditions. So certainly we will be advising mariners to either seek safe harbor or to remain in safe harbor until the passage of the system out of our area. Flooding will be discussed by the Hydrological Department in relation to the rainfall potential and the related flooding. We, of course, will be updating constantly. We have a website, nms.gov.bz, a Facebook page, and for those persons with an Android phone or Belize Weather app, we'll also be carrying all alerts and possible watches. Also, I will notify you that we have been in communication with the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, and they have indicated that as of 3 p.m. this afternoon, they will be issuing advisories on potential tropical cyclone 15. And the government of Belize at that point, or within that advisory, there will be a declaration of a tropical storm watch from Belize City northward. This system is within 24 hours of a potential landfall, and therefore residents should be paying keen attention and monitoring the system. Impacts over the country south of Belize City will be relatively minimal in terms of winds, but the rainfall potential is for the entire country, so we need to be on alert for possible flooding Again, I will defer that to hydrology, but certainly rainfall, it can occur well away from where the center makes landfall. I again repeat that tropical storm watch will be declared from Belize to the northward. That could be upgraded if the system is declared a tropical storm. And I will leave it at that and take questions whenever that time comes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gordon. We will move on to Mr. Mendez. Do you have any comments to share at this time?
Yes, thank you. I would prefer if the hydrology department goes first, then I will follow.
Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon to the press and good afternoon, Belize. Just to give you the current status of the situation with the rivers in the country. In the north, similar to yesterday, we are seeing elevated river levels. In the central, we are seeing the same, and as well in the south. The forecast in terms of soil moisture that we're seeing right now, it's very high in the west of the country, Maya Mountains going to the coast. In terms of any potential landslide threats, we're not seeing any at this time, but that is highly dependent on the rainfall activity, its intensity, and where it occurs. In terms of flash flooding, because I know this will be a question that will be brought up at this current model run that we're doing. We're not seeing any immediate threats within the next 6 hours. However, we reiterate that these are models and they are run in a specific time scale, time period. And so this will be updated later today and as well over the weekend. The flash flood risk in the first 12 hours is not a positive one. However, within the 24 and the 36-hour window, that risk increases to a very medium high potential for flash flooding. And it's, as we normally know, in the west of the country, in the south, and now we're seeing in the north. For flooding, we're seeing right now that the Rio Hondo, the New River, and portions of the Belize River are forecasted to have flood levels. Again, this can increase or decrease depending on the actual rainfall that takes place. Historically, we have seen that for about 3 to 6 inches in the Orange Walk district, we had several communities experiencing urban flooding. And so we are reiterating, trying to cement that you need to monitor the rainfall, monitor the water levels in your area. It can increase or change very rapidly. We will be issuing our forecast 8 o'clock in the morning, 12, and if it's possible at 4 p.m. We just have to keep monitoring and see if we need to make any changes to update the public. But of course, this will be in collaboration with the Met Office and with NEMO as well. The excessive rainfall amount stated by Chief Met, expecting 4 to 8 inches modestly over the next 3-day period. Look out for flooding conditions. We know that there are certain areas, especially in Belize City, with 1 hour of intense rainfall, we have flooding conditions as we experienced earlier this week. So the environment will be conducive for this type of flooding to occur, and in collaboration with the riverine flooding. They both are great contributors to the flooding conditions. So we ask that residents remain alert and monitor the situation in their country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Mr. Mendez?
Thank you very much. So just to give a to give an update of what we have been doing at the National Emergency Management Organization. We have put all our district offices on alert. They have actually been monitoring also the system over the past few days. So today, the EOCs in all our districts are having planning meetings with their members in preparation for the potential flood and wind risk. So we have also been reaching out to all the vulnerable communities in the north. This has actually begun. We have been speaking to the communities and the leadership of the communities, informing them of the potential rain and wind. And we have started to work with them to ensure that these preparations are in place. So all of our districts are actually meeting between now and 3 p.m. At the national level, we will be conducting a planning meeting with all of the national liaison officers here at the NEMO headquarters in preparation for any activation. All the preparation, we have stocks in place in all the district offices, and our personnel will be on standby over the weekend. We will also continue to monitor this closely along with the Met Service and the Hydrology Department to ensure that we are in a position to respond quickly if there's a need to do so. As I said, we are anticipating these impacts. So I really want to stress to the public that if you are in one of these vulnerable locations, if you are in a village that is at risk for flooding, please keep on monitoring and please be prepared to implement your action plan if this should occur. We also are recommending to all residents that we need to start looking at clearing of drains and doing everything we can to minimize any potential flooding to your property. Clearing drains, removing debris, this is the time to do so. And again, keep on listening to all of the messages that would be coming out from NEMO, from the Hydrology Department, and from the Met Service. And really, that's what we have. Just to repeat, NEMO across the country is on standby. All our district offices are meeting, and we have begun the planning our planning sessions in the anticipation that there may be some flooding or high winds affecting the country.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Thank you, Chief Met and Ms. Tennille as well. We now open the floor for any questions. You can raise your hands and then I will call on you, please, just so that we have some order. Yes, Channel 7.
Yes, hello. Good afternoon, Jules Vasquez from Channel 7. So what at what time should we expect to start experiencing the effects of the storm? I understand that the storm and the rain are two different things. But at what time should we start to expect feeling effects of the system, because we don't know if it will be a storm, though it appears likely?
Thanks for your question, Jules. The storm and the rains are not a separate thing right now. The rains that we're experiencing are outer feeder bands, rain bands, of showers and thunderstorms associated with the actual storm. So we're already experiencing some of it in the outer fringes. And like I mentioned previously, we expect that those bands will begin coming in with more intensity, and by tomorrow morning, we're expecting the most severe conditions associated with this system.
Okay, what is working in our favor right now? You know, we always talk about warm seas, and I know there are warm seas, but also I know we have Alina the blow right now. And is there any upper level trough, as they say, that may come to a rescue and stop the system from organizing?
In terms of the track, we have a high pressure ridge to the north of us that has been left over from a cold front that has dissipated. So we had a cold front that came as far as northern Yucatan. That front has dissipated now, and behind the front, we typically have what we call is a high pressure ridge. That's the cold mountain or the mountain of cold air, as we want to call it. The system, it blocks the system. It's a blocking high, which prevents it from going poleward and therefore moving it more towards a westward trajectory into our area. In terms of the intensity prediction, we always say that intensity prediction is a bit more problematic. However, most of the models are suggesting that it will not be a very intense system when it reaches us. Like I said, worst case, most probable scenario is a low-end tropical storm, and that will be winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour. It has favorable conditions right now in terms of ventilation at the upper levels, but just to the north of it and to the west of it over us, there are strong upper level winds, which will create some wind shear and potentially limit development further and therefore prevent rapid intensification. There's always a 1 to 2% probability that, of course, you could have rapid intensification. However, like I said, the most probable worst case scenario is we're looking at a low-end tropical storm.
We know that I know that you don't like talking about king tides, but we're having high tides right now due to the full moon, which just passed. I'm not sure of the tide timings for tomorrow. I was quickly looking it up. It says the low tide will be at 5:26 a.m. So I guess the high tide will be in the evening. Is that something that city residents or coastal residents should be looking at in terms of it will, if there is heavy rain, king tides would exacerbate the flooding, no?
That is certainly something that we need to bear in mind, Jules. So indeed, we are expecting higher than normal tides, and with the potential for additional rainfall, with the potential for rainfall and flooding, certainly we expect that could exacerbate the situation for the city in particular.
Jose, you have your hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes. How soon should we expect flooding in the north? I know earlier in the year had August Ridge and San Romanich had flooding. So the question is, will NEMO have shelters open considering it's about 3 days of rain? And is there any discussion with the Ministry of Education regarding school openings on Monday? Considering I think you're looking at, you said 3 days more or less of rain for the northern portion of the country.
So I can answer the first piece. So we do keep all of our options open. At this point, I cannot say that we will be opening shelters. However, shelters are always on standby in case they're needed. So we will be looking at the development across the next few days, and if there's a need to open any particular shelter in any community, then we will do so, and we will do so in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. At this point, we do not foresee the need to close any schools or anywhere. But again, we will be monitoring it closely. And if there's a need to do so, we will do so in close collaboration with the Ministry of Education. Of course, along with on the advice of the Met and Hydrology departments to see what we can anticipate. But at this point, there is no need to open the shelters, but there is always a shelter on standby to be open if there is a need to do so in any community.
Last question. Since it is not considered to be a major storm or something minor, if it does become a storm, what precautions are you telling people to take? I mean, other than to say, look at the weather reports or be aware, because we're looking at tomorrow, Saturday, being the last day for businesses to be open if they need to get any sort of supplies. So what is the recommendation from NEMO?
As always, we remember that we are in a hurricane season, so your level of preparedness should be there already. You should already know your plans, you should already have your supplies, or you should have a plan of how you are going to get these things. So we are not at a point yet of asking people to go out and make all of these big purchases. But we do want you to be aware that there may be the need to do so. So at this point, you need to have your plan. That we're already in October, we're nearing the end of the season. So if you don't have a plan, then you need to really put that in place. It's really important to be able to have these in place. But at this point, there is no real need to do that, but just keep on monitoring and listen to the updates that are coming from ourselves and from the Met Department as well.
If I may, Nicole, just to answer the second part of the question in terms of flooding. Again, it's the urban flooding is based on the rainfall activity. That is not something that we can predict. Chief Met can tell me if I'm wrong here, but we essentially need to wait until the rainfall occurs. Because we estimate these things, they are models. Remember, models change. The model certainly has changed for our flood forecast since I did it at noon, and we're not even 2 hours since that run. So these models change, and so we need to be mindful of that. In terms of the riverine flooding, we're not seeing any real changes until around Saturday afternoon, going into Sunday. So I agree with Captain Mendes that we essentially need to wait until we see what's the extent of the impact with the flooding before we can make any grand decisions on whether we're going to close schools or open shelters. So I hope that helped understanding why we can't at this point tell you we're going to close or cut off services at any point in time right now.
And sorry, I just want to jump in terms of the rainfall prediction. You mentioned up until Monday. I should clarify that it's a 3-day prediction, yes, from today through to Sunday night or early Monday morning. But the most intense rainfall is expected tomorrow, Saturday. And we expect a decrease in rainfall on Sunday and even more less on Monday. So that's in relation to the rainfall prediction for the next 3 days. So the bulk of it will be tomorrow, tonight into tomorrow.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No questions today?
I always have one more.
Go ahead, Jules.
So all right, in terms of the actual, in terms of the system itself, is it what in terms of the rainfall, there are projections for rainfall. What are we is it over 5 inches, under 5 inches? Have there been any concrete projections associated with the storm being made yet?
4 to 8 inches, Jules. I think I had said it before.
Okay, my bad. I missed it. Sorry. Okay,
And
so
we expect that to be mostly to the north of the center of the system. So most of it will be extreme northern Belize or into Mexico of that high amount. Of course, we'll get rainfall over the entire country, but those max of 4 to 8 inches, we expect those for the extreme northern parts of the country based on the current trajectory. Of course, like with Hendy mentioned, these are forecasts and they are subject to change.
okay, now since it's not really a storm or even a TD at this point, is there? I know there are projections, right? These models, I should say. But as the National Hurricane Center, or have you all? No one has really put out a storm track per se. It's not really a storm.
Well, you don't have to wait until it becomes a storm for it to have a track. There are models that are predicting its evolution already, and we do see them. The ensemble of models are out there, and they are showing a track generally towards northern Belize. So there is a track already.
Okay. We have time for one more question. If there's anybody else who would like to ask, this is your time.
Yes, I would like to ask. This is Maria from the Voice of Keycaulker. The rough seas that was mentioned, do you think there will be a alert on it or an announcement, or it would mostly be left up to boats and captains to remain in safe harbor? How would you see that going in a tropical storm situation?
So we currently already have a small crop caution in effect, because within these bands of showers and thunderstorms that are coming, we do expect winds to become gusty and sea conditions to be rough. So there's already a caution out, an alert out to mariners to be careful, no? And as the system gets nearer and these bands become more intense and the winds pick up, we certainly expect that will be upgraded to a warning, in which case we will advise mariners to stay in safe harbor or seek safe harbor and don't venture out to sea. So certainly there will be alerts. To answer your question, those will be broadcasted, of course, through our website, through our mobile app, and also on our Facebook page.
Thank you.
And of course, on the radio stations that pick up our weather forecast.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. And with that, we will end today's session. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in and for asking your questions, because I know these are questions that the public would like to know as well. I want to remind the public not to panic. This is not cause to panic. We're just letting you know what the situation is and to remind you to prepare yourselves for any outcome that may happen. To please remember to tune in and listen only to our official reports from the National Met Service. NEMO and Hydrology also shares this information coming from the Chief Met and his office. Be reminded that the Met Service of Belize works in collaboration with the National Hurricane Center and the Caribbean Met Organization. So all information coming from us are accurate. And so we urge you to please tune into our official reports. With that, I close today and I
just want to squeeze in one more. Will airports be closed? Sorry, Nicole. Will airports be closed or airstrips, local airstrips?
Mr.
I think it's too early to make that determination. As Mr. Gordon had said, we need to monitor the potential for this. Again, this is one of those tools within our toolkit, and if there's a need to do so, that is something that will be discussed at the highest levels. But at this point, we do not anticipate that, and we'll go again. All options are open as we plan for emergencies.
Okay. And thank you, and do have a good afternoon, everyone. Be safe and stay prepared. Tune in.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody.